Is this narrative that's popped up about Arkansas legitimate?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's a Crain Kick Thursday. Jake Crain of Crain and Company hanging out with us as we look ahead to Auburn and Arkansas. I want to talk about the pass rush because I think that's going to be a huge opportunity for the Auburn Tigers. We'll do our predictions at the end of the show as well, Jake. But first things first, this narrative has popped up around the Arkansas Razorbacks, and it's coming more from, I think, the Auburn side of things than anywhere else. And they kind of did it with Vandy last week, but this is an Arkansas team that everybody was talking bad about for the last month or so, maybe even longer than that. And they go on the road and they beat a bad Florida team thanks to a Florida kicker, doing college kicker things. And then obviously they capitalized in overtime. KJ Jefferson did. But there's all these folks now making all these arguments for how good Arkansas actually is, all these close losses and how they went to Florida and righted their season. Is this narrative that's popped up legitimate?
Well, look, I don't think there's enough time left for Arkansas to right their season with what they expected, bringing back KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders.
Sure.
Look, here's what I think. I think you had kind of a coalescing of two things happen at the same time that lends to hope, right? You fire your offensive coordinator. That next Saturday, you have a new guy calling the plays. I thought they did lean more on the run game, and I did think he actually did a pretty good job. And then
Sure.
you win that game at Florida, which is a team that's beatable with Arkansas's roster, even though it's on the road. We've seen Florida kind of be up and down. And to be honest with you, if you watch the beginning of that game, if you watch the first half of that game, Florida, and I don't want to take any credit away from Arkansas, and I know we'll get more into Arkansas, but Florida sleptwalked through the first quarter and a half of that game.
I thought the game started 14-0.
It did. I mean, Arkansas went down the field and scored.
Right.
Florida couldn't even line up on the first defensive drive, and then Florida gets the ball, and the wide receiver gets the ball ripped out of his hands after he makes an 8-yard catch. Arkansas goes and scores. Then all of a sudden, Florida wakes up. They get two stops. They get two big punt returns. But Arkansas hung in there. And the offense, you end up scoring, 32 points. They ended up with 39, even though it was overtime. So you had a new offensive coordinator. You had a team go and play well on the road. So what do you think as a fan? Oh, we fixed it. That was the problem. It was the offensive coordinator was the whole problem why Arkansas hasn't had the year they were supposed to have, when in reality, it's a personnel issue overall, right? The book's not out on Kenny Guyton yet. Nobody knows how he's going to call plays. You kind of caught him slipping a little bit in both ways. So I don't think Arkansas now is all of a sudden this legitimate problem or this legitimately great team. Sure. I think they're the same team that punched above their weight against Alabama in the first half, who I think slept on them a little bit. And then, are in the second half and Alabama kind of went to sleep. But no, I don't think Arkansas is this juggernaut team that is so much better than what they were just because they got rid of Dan Enos. I think it's more coincidental than anything.
What do you make of consistently losing close games? Because that's a big argument from the pundits on both sides of the aisle, both with Arkansas and Auburn folks, how Arkansas keeps losing these close games. I'm not a huge fan of the transitive property in sports, especially college football, because every Saturday is so different when you're dealing with all of these kids. Where are you on this? Because, I get it, but you also are consistently losing close games. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, Jake.
Well, I mean, look, I obviously, Zach, anytime you lose, you want to win, in everything you do. But I think, again, if somebody shows you who they are enough, you got to believe them. Now I'm not a trends guy in the fact that, this team hasn't beaten this team in the last 8 years, so therefore they're not going to win on the 9th year. Or, this team on a Saturday after October 3rd and it's a full moon is like 21-6. I don't believe in that. I think there's patterns by year. I know every year's different. Every circumstance is different. Every team is different. But if there's a pattern that emerges over time, something's wrong with the preparation. I think we say the same things about teams that win close games, right? It's in their DNA. They know how to win. They know how to finish. I just think it's something that is a real thing. And Arkansas's lost close games. It seems like ever since Sam Pittman's been there, they've won a couple big ones. Sure. But at the end of the day, you are who you are. And if you show me who you are enough, I'm going to start to believe you. It seems like they can't finish when it matters.
Yeah. The offensive coordinator narrative, and look, I think he had a solid debut in Gainesville on the road. That's a tough place to win. I don't care what state Florida is in as a program. But I mean, you're telling me, okay, a guy going into his second week ever as offensive coordinator, going up against Ron Roberts, who's having an incredible season as a defensive coordinator. I like that matchup in Auburn's direction, Jake.
Yeah, well, look, I don't think, and again, I'm not trying to knock the guy, but I don't think Kenny Guyton did anything like super special. I think he did the smart thing. I think he got the ball to his best players. I mean, it was the Rocket Sanders and KJ Jefferson show. They were the stars, and everybody else was just a supporting actor, and that's how the offense should have been. I will say this, Zach.
Sure.
I think one thing that Dan Enos was trying to do, and because if you look, I mean, if you look at KJ Jefferson, obviously, we know he throws the ball well enough, but it's his running ability and like ability to shake tackles and in the red zone and things like that really makes him scary. But KJ Jefferson every year would get hurt halfway or right past halfway through the year, miss games because he was having to run too much. He was taking a ton of hits. The offensive line hasn't been fantastic since Sam Pittman's been there. So I think they tried to pull the reins back in on him a little bit and say, listen, if we're going to make a run or have a chance to make a run, you got to be healthy throughout the year. So I think there was some of that. But it seems that Kenny Guyton right now, they're just pulling the trigger, and that's what they should do. Rocket Sanders was was hurt throughout the year, missed a couple big games in a stretch there, and it's really when it started to spiral. But no, I don't think Arkansas has the coaching matchup advantage. I think Auburn does. It's going to come down to personnel, and I know we're going to get into that. But Ron Roberts knows that Kenny Guyton's probably going to play the tune that everybody dances to, and that's KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders, and build the offense off of that run game.
Yeah, there's one other part of this narrative that I think is interesting. So many Auburn fans are saying, well, okay, I made the comment earlier in this week that I think Auburn is trending up, and I think Arkansas, with the exception of last week, has been trending down as a program. And a lot of people are saying, well, Auburn's not trending up. They just played against teams that are towards the bottom of the conference, which is true, right? Vandy and Mississippi State are towards the bottom of the conference. But using that as an argument why Auburn doesn't have a shot against Arkansas doesn't make sense to me, Jake, because Arkansas also is towards the bottom of the SEC. Am I off on that?
Arkansas got beat at home by Mississippi State 7-3.
They scored 3 points.
I don't think. Look, I think it's again. Are we talking about trending up on how well this team's going to do at the end of the year? Or use the word program right now? If I look at the trajectory of Auburn's program under Hugh Freeze in year one, when I look at recruiting, when I look at the facilities, when I look at the alignment of the fan base, when I look at a season where Auburn, when they've played against teams that are better than they were, which is a lot of the time right now, it won't be for long. But it's not an even fight. They've been able to stay in most of those games. Sure. When they played against teams they were better than, they've beaten them. If you want a litmus test on Hugh Freeze and them being able to punch above their weight and beat the teams they're supposed to beat, it may not be beautiful sometimes, but he's doing exactly what he has to do, and probably the only year he's going to have to do it. Then when I look at Arkansas, you just lost 5-6 games in a row. Sam Pittman struggled for another year. You just fired second straight year where a coordinator didn't get fired, but now your coordinator's gone on the offensive side. Kendall Briles went to TCU. I think the defense is overachieved. But right now, I think when you look at the overall trend from a wholesome standpoint of Auburn football compared to Arkansas football, yes, Auburn is trending up, and yes, Arkansas is trending down. Now, on the field, I still think Arkansas has a couple more pieces than Auburn does right now, and they are at home. But sure, I don't know how you could sit here and look at this matchup and just think Auburn's going to go get beat to sleep. Arkansas, look, it's not to downplay it, but you don't got the juice like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. Okay, there's a mismatch on this that I can't quit talking about, Jake. I will get your thoughts on that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Jace Medical. This is doctor approved. All you have to do to sign up for a Jace case is go to jacemedical.com. A Jace case can provide 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. And all it takes to get a Jace case is to fill out a simple online form. And in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of their board-certified physicians. Look, there's a lot of stuff going on. And look, I mean, it seems like anytime something goes wrong, you're either away from your doctor or you're in a situation where, oh my gosh, I'm in a lot of pain, but this has to wait until the doctor office opens in the morning. With the Jace case, you don't have to worry about that. It comes with a pamphlet and instructions on when to use certain things and why. So all this is doctor created. and doctor recommended. The big thing here, don't get caught unprepared with your health, and Jase Medical can help you with all of that. So once again, head over to jasemedical.com. And if you or someone you love wants the peace of mind with a year supply of any daily medication, go to Jase Medical and see if it's offered for you, and use our promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. Once again, jasemedical.com. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Frisky Whiskey. Frisky Whiskey is the best place to buy any type of alcohol. They've got you covered: beer, wine, whiskey, tequila, vodka. It doesn't matter what it is. They've got you covered. You step into Frisky Whiskey, you see 10,000 square feet of selection, and then you look at these prices. You're like, how are they making money? All this stuff is priced so low. They are. They've been open for a long time, so they must be making money, I guess. But go check out our friends at Frisky Whiskey. Great selection. It's right off of I-85 as soon as you get into the state of Georgia. So about 15, 20-minute drive. If you're stocking up on stuff for tailgating or a party, or just because you want to go see all the different types of things you could choose from, just head over to Frisky Whiskey right off of I-85. Type it into your phone's GPS, or once you get to that Alabama-Georgia border, you'll see a bunch of billboards for it as well. It's a Crain Kick Thursday. Jake Crain of Crain and Company hanging out with us. The mismatch in this one that I can't keep looking at is Auburn's defensive front seven versus Arkansas's offensive line. And just talking to folks, I think Auburn has a lot of respect for Arkansas center, but I think outside of that, there's a lot of potential mismatches where I think Auburn could really get it done as far as pursuing KJ Jefferson. Jake, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I think this is one of the few conference games this year where Auburn does have an advantage from a pass rush standpoint, going up against an offensive line that I don't think is of the highest quality, and I don't even think Arkansas fans think it's of the highest quality. The question for me isn't can Auburn get there, it's can they get KJ Jefferson down, who's a mountain of a man, which is probably the reason I'm going to have to be drinking some Frisky Whiskey on Saturday.
You'll save a lot of money, Jake, if you do that.
Yeah, no doubt. But KJ is so incredibly good at not just, everybody thinks of him as shaking off tackles, being the big bouldering, lumbering guy that's right, heavy, but he does a really good job of escaping up through the pocket too. I don't think he gets enough credit for being able to be that big and yet get out. A lot of guys that are that big struggle to get out. They get tripped up. Somebody grabs them, holds them there. He's able to make himself somewhat skinny. I don't know if anybody's ever accused KJ of being skinny, but make himself somewhat skinny to be able to get out and go. And he's actually a pretty decent runner when he gets in the open field. He's a long strider, a guy that Florida just didn't want to tackle. Go look at overtime. Florida was done tackling KJ Jefferson. So can you actually get him down when you get there? And it's not oh no, the guy's super elusive. It's Jaden Daniels or Jalen Milroe. He can shake you and get outside. It's that literally guys hit him like a windshield, and like bugs hit a windshield, and they just slide off. So yes, I think Auburn's going to get there. Can they get him down, or at least make him throw the ball away when they do get there?
Yeah, 206 of KJ's 517 yards rushing is from the quarterback scramble. So the design stuff doesn't do too great, but where he's
I wonder what it is after contact. I wonder what his yak yards are. It's probably pretty insane. I'd love to see his career yak yards. That's got to be insane.
It's got to be. I'm with you. I don't have...
Zach, we've been watching him for what, 3 years? I mean, the man's been doing this. I mean, it's amazing watching guys fall off.
I've got it here, Jake. You want to guess of his 517 yards, how many are after contact? You want to guess?
Of his 517, I would say, give me
it's
415.
Most. How much?
415.
471. So even more.
Wow.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah.
So that's a good point. That's a good point by you. There's no question. There's no question. But to me, I think Auburn's got to make it not about KJ Jefferson as far as the runner. And I think you do that by similar ways that you played against Mississippi State and Vanderbilt, and you try everything you possibly can to take away any sort of rushing attack.
Yeah,
and
make them dribble with their left.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think Auburn's got the defensive backs to win the one-on-one matchups with Arkansas's wide receivers. 13 of the 13. So KJ's been sacked. Some places say 36, some places say 37, but he's been sacked in the upper 30s there. 13 of them have come from when the defense did not blitz. So once again, like I think Auburn's going to be able to get home against them. It's just can't give up these big plays.
Zac, the great thing is you can go about it both ways, right? And you never want to do just one thing. I mean, that's unless it's just overtly obvious that they can't stop it. I'm not talking about matchups. I'm talking about schematically. But if you can get there, again, a defensive coordinator's dream is to be able to get there without having to bring pressure, right? Get pressure without having to add pressure. And I think, again, this is one of the games where Auburn has the personnel not only to be able to rush the passer without bringing pressure, but I don't think they have to just load the box every single time to be able to stop the run. I think guys are going to be able to get off blocks and make plays. Now, you've got to rally to the ball, obviously, in anything, but especially with KJ and Rocket, who are two big guys that break tackles. But, I mean, Ron Roberts has had this defense playing with their hair on fire. So it seems to me, we always talk about, oh, well, the whole menu's open for the offense. They can do this. They can do that. Defensively, it's the same thing. If I can get there at a base or with my base number of defensive linemen, then I obviously can get there with pressure. That means I can do whatever and have success. So it works both ways, offensively and defensively. And I think Ron Roberts, once again, will put Auburn's players defensively in the best position to make the plays and limit the opposing offense.
They're a guy on Auburn's defense where you're like, okay, I want a little more. I want a little more from you, because I think we're seeing more from the linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a few defensive linemen where you could say, I'd like a little bit more from you.
I want Falk to come on. I was hoping you would say. I want him to just come on. I want to see it. It's like Aiden Holloway last night against Baylor. I know it's basketball, but it's like, all right, I saw it. I get it now. Not that Falk hasn't flashed some, but I want to see him in some of these one-on-one opportunities when he does get an opportunity, especially in pass rush situations where it's predictable downs, to let the big dog eat a little bit. He's the guy I want to see some more of.
I love that. I love that you said that. All right, let's predict the score and how we think this game is going to go in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to play daily fantasy sports. It's easy. It takes like 60 seconds to fill out a pick and submit it and hopefully win up to 25 times your money. But all you have to do is you pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. So if you think Peyton's going to throw for more than 170 yards, you take more. If you think Jarquez Hunter's going to rush it for more than, I think the prop was 91 yards last week, he did that in the first quarter. So it's fun. It's really, really fun. They've got all different types of sports as well. So head over to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege for our first deposit match up to $100. You can also use the app. I love their mobile app. It's very, very easy to use, very user-friendly. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Jake Crain, our guest on the Thursday edition of Locked On Auburn. I'm thinking mid-20s for one team, mid-teens to high teens for the other team. And I've kind of gone back and forth a little bit, but right now I'm sticking with Auburn winning.
Oh, you going exact score on this?
I think earlier in the week I said 24-17. I'm still
sounds right.
I'm still kind of in that ball. My only hesitation with that is I think both teams are going to be better defensively in the red zone, so I wouldn't be shocked if there's more field goals.
Give me, and again, I hope I'm wrong, give me Arkansas 24-20. That's actually, you know what? Give me Arkansas 27-20.
27-20. Is that it's close and Arkansas comes ahead, or is it Arkansas got it and then Auburn scores late to make it look closer?
I think it's going to be one of those things where it's a tight game, pretty much the whole game, and KJ Jefferson finds a way to score a touchdown late, and Auburn's not able to put it in. Look, again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm 100% wrong. And I think what we've seen from Peyton Thorne the last couple of weeks, I know he had the pick 6 last week, but outside of that, the receivers had some bad drops, but it seems like he's on time and that chemistry is getting built. I've just got to see it on the road. That's not at a place called Vanderbilt. That's where I've got to see it, especially now that Arkansas won last week. Crowd, I'm sure, will be excited. But again, until I see that, it is very hard for me to pick Auburn to win a game on the road in an environment and against a team that's either even or is better than they are.
What's your confidence level in Auburn being able to run the football on Saturday?
Oh, look, I mean, Auburn, that's been Auburn's best trick. I mean, I'd say 7 out of 10. I mean, this offensive line's been able to run the ball when other teams knew all they could do is run the ball. We've seen them be able to run against Georgia and against good front sevens. I think they'll be able to run it. It's, how balanced will they be? They were pretty balanced against Vanderbilt. I mean, it helps when Jarquez hits his head on the goalpost from about 70 out twice in the first half. But, again, how greedy will Auburn be on first down, throwing off play action and things like that? That's what I'm interested to see.
Are you relieved that the quarterback situation's done?
I don't think it's done.
Really?
I guess you could say for this year, most likely, unless it's just an absolute disaster. But the way Auburn's quarterback situation's gone this year, I don't know if I'm ready to say done. But, people have asked me, is Peyton Thorne going to be the guy after these last 2 weeks for next year? Well, I think it comes down to what the market bears.
Oh,
if there's
I'm not talking about next year. I'm just talking about the quarterback rotation this year.
Yeah,
I don't think any of these quarterbacks are on the roster next year.
Outside of injury, I think this is what you're going to see. And look, continuity is a good thing, right? Continuity is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. All right, in regards to, let's say your prediction goes chalk and Auburn drops this game at Arkansas, because we all know what happens if Auburn wins, right? I mean, it's euphoric. It's, oh my goodness, let's take care of business against New Mexico State and Alabama. Come on in the Iron Bowl. We've got a 4-game winning streak riding high into the Iron Bowl. We all know what happens with that. We've talked about that scenario. If Auburn does lose to Arkansas on Saturday, I think there's going to be a big chunk of the fan base that's very upset because Auburn really wasn't able to win or play effectively on the road in this scenario. What's the fallout from this, assuming Auburn loses?
Well, a lot of it is optics, right? Is it a really close game that Auburn just lost in the end, or did Auburn go get dominated and they looked offensively like they did against A&M or something like that? I think the optics matters a lot, but just overall, if it's a good game and Auburn loses it, obviously people are going to be upset. You wait all week for this, you wait all offseason for it, and even though it's in the first year, look, Hugh Freeze and them would be upset. The players would be upset. They're not going down there to lose. But, again, at the end of the day, it is year one. You're in the process of building. So, you can't get too high. You can't get too low. That's the thing. To get through the choppy water, you got to be consistent. But look, you'll have the 24 hours of being upset. And then you realize you got to handle business against New Mexico State. And then Alabama rolls into town. But again, optically, it just depends on how that goes. But if Auburn does win it, that euphoric, I think, is going to be a good example because, or a good phrase to use. And now all of a sudden, it's, hey, make sure you don't just go roll your helmet out against New Mexico State. That's a little bit more dangerous than what I think people think of when they think of New Mexico State with who they have. And then that Iron Bowl, the confidence level shoots up times 1,000.
Yeah, there's just such a big difference between 7-5 and 6-6, just emotionally. Like that.
Well, it feels like there's a huge difference between 7-5 and 8-4.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. Especially if that 8th win is an Iron Bowl.
Dude, right. That happens. Uh-oh.
Build the man a statue.
Ryan Williams. Happens. Oh, excuse me. Oh, sorry.
That's right. Jake Crain of Crain and Company. How can people check out everything you've got going on, buddy?
Easy, man. If you watch, we go live each weekday morning, 6:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central. It's easiest to find us on YouTube. It's Crain and Company, Crain and Company, or Crain. Yeah, obviously, and Company. After that, I know y'all know how to spell that. But if you can't catch us live, it's on there all day on audio. It's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, spelled the same. We have live calls, a live chat. Had some Auburn talk this morning, and an Auburn caller call in, and come hang out with us, man. It's a good time.
Yeah, you can find all my written work at auburndaily.com, and we will see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.